God, where do I start with this shambles of a festival? Hey you, it's me, Charlotte, and welcome to my channel. This topic has been requested quite a lot, and after doing my research, it's an interesting one. I'm going to give you all the facts in this video, so keep watching to the end because there is so much more to this story than just the festival itself. Fire Festival. Due to take place in 2017 over 2 weekends on April the 28th to 30th and May the 5th to the 7th. It was meant to take place on Pablo Escobar's private island. 2 people were responsible for this colossal mess, and that was Rule and Billy McFarland. They were the masterminds behind Fire Festival. Rule was mostly there for the money and the famous face, while Billy was the brains behind the whole thing, if you can call any of this smart at all. Billy was also the mastermind behind the Magnesis card, a credit card for millennials that was promoted as very exclusive. They would have private meetups, parties, all sorts. It was a success to start with, then nothing panned out the way it was meant to. People didn't have access to the exclusive events, and they still got charged for it. Pretty foreboding if you ask me. While trying to get their investments for Fire Festival, they decided to put up all of their ticket prices, even though nothing had been planned yet. Things like the duo, where they would have their flights included, a rustic tent with twin beds. They also had private villas, which would accommodate 10 people. This would include food, sun decks, and a full crew catering to their every need. Sounds amazing, right? The price of the tickets were extortionate. For the villas alone, you'd be looking $250,000, which works out to about $25,000 each. People still paid out for this though, so they made a lot of money straight off the bat. They sold out extremely quickly. People warned the founders about how small this island was, and that they weren't sure if they could even fit 1,000 people. From even the promotional shoot, before anything had even been planned, it was clear they were working on a big shot, better than everyone kind of dream. Billy said, and I quote, "We're selling a pipe dream to your average loser." They didn't care about everyone having a good time. They were in it for themselves. What would give them the name, what would give them the most money, etc. When the promo came out, Fire Festival promised this luxurious party with supermodels. This included Bella Hadid, Emily Ratajkowski, and Hailey Baldwin. Also had the views of jet skis and little baby pigs. To be honest, I would have been hooked on the baby pigs. If you would too, hit that like button and let me know if you would have been sucked in by the baby pigs. Please don't tell me I'm the only one. To the founders, this wasn't enough promotion. Celebrities were paid to post orange squares on their Instagram. Even celebrities such as Kendall Jenner. This went viral. Loads of celebrities were posting about it. Even the average person was posting this orange square with no clue about what it meant. This sent the festival into overcapacity. Billy and Rule were warned about this, but they let it continue because they wanted more money. They spent more money than they earned on themselves. They were having parties, drinking, spending time with these supermodels, instead of making this festival a success. You remember when I mentioned Pablo Escobar's island earlier? Billy had brought the island. That was the plan, it was going to be there. On one condition. They were asked not to mention the original owner's name on any promotional shoot. Did they listen? Nope. They put Pablo's name on the promo and subsequently got kicked off the island. So they had to move and redo the whole planning process in 8 weeks. They didn't let the ticket holders know about this at all, so people when they arrived were thinking that they were still going on Pablo Escobar's private island. It ended up being on a small part of the Bahamas, local to a small community. The venue ended up being a lot smaller than Pablo Escobar's island. How are they going to host over 1,000 ticket holders in this small island? They were already over capacity. With weeks to go before the event, they still had no accommodation sorted. They recruited over 200 local residents to help build this festival, pulling them away from their families, their jobs. Some of them even gave up their homes just so these people could have a place to stay. But it wasn't enough. They needed over 500 villas. Barely any of the ticket holders ended up with this villa. Instead, those villas were reserved for VIPs, the acts that were playing, the supermodels that were promoting the event and were there to party with the guests. Not only that, once they had changed the island, they offered the influencers that had posted on social media for them a 3-bed villa on the beach. That didn't exist. Guess what? It got worse. Closer to the festival, an email was sent out This email stated that the festival goers would receive a loadable wristband and that they were encouraged to put at least $3,000 on there. And if they wanted to have more of the luxurious events happening during the festival, they would need to load much, much more. People then started to get more and more suspicious about this festival, commenting on their Instagram, "Where are my flight tickets? Where is this located? Is it even real?" So let's roll around to the first day of the festival. First off, you need to hit that subscribe button if you want to hear more stories like this one. Turns out there is a lot more festival drama throughout the years. Guests were under the impression they'd be flown out on a private jet to the island. They were literally stranded for about 4 to 5 hours with no idea of what was going to happen, whether they would even get a flight. Instead, they were flown out on a Boeing 737 with Fire Festival slapped on the side. When they got there, they needed to receive their luggage. How did they do this? Luggage was dropped from a shipping container in the middle of the night with no light. People were just scrabbling to find their bags. Apparently, it was a sea of just black bags, and no one knew whose was whose. When the guests finally got to the island, they were stranded on a beach for over 6 hours. No one knew how to get to the festival. There were no directions from anybody. They were just told to stay there. Once they were finally moved along towards the festival, there were queues and queues of people waiting to get in. There was no movement for hours on end. People were getting tired, hungry, and thirsty. When some of the festival goers got driven past the event, it was clear that some of the tents weren't even built. Attendees were promised luxury domes and villas included in the ticket price, but when they finally got in, turns out they were flimsy hurricane tents. They were all squashed together, no privacy, and certainly no luxury. These were meant to be the rustic tents, and even those that paid for a villa were shoved into these tents. How did this happen? Billy stood up on the tables in front of the massive queues with a bottle in hand and said, "Everybody just go grab a tent." And of course, naturally, people ran to these tents just to get some shelter and somewhere to put their bags. It was carnage. When they even got to the tents, turns out a lot of these mattresses were damp from just the rain and the cold and the condensation. So there were more mattresses that people had to go and find that were wrapped up. People were fighting over them. People even tried to sabotage other people's tents by slashing holes in them just so that people wouldn't be around them so they can have some space to themselves. And what's so mad about this is that team members were asked to stay in these tents before the festival to get an idea of how it would be. But they told Billy and Ja Rule that these tents were not safe to stay in. It was windy, it was hurricane season, and they were just damp and wet. It wasn't safe for the attendees to sleep in. Did Billy and Ja Rule care? Absolutely not. They pretended that nothing was wrong, and they pretended that this was fine, and that this was the plan the whole time. Guests got tired. They were starving at this point. So, of course, naturally, they'd go to find their VIP luxury catering service, which was meant to be Star Catering. Turns out, Star Catering had terminated their contract with Fire Festival just weeks before the event. So when the guests tried to find their VIP lunch, they were greeted by a makeshift tent, and people were crammed into this tiny tent and served something extraordinary. They were given a cheese sandwich, if you could even call it a cheese sandwich. They were just 2 slices of bread with processed cheese on top and a very sad salad. Resort owners were told that they would be paid if they could cater for the guests last minute. Plus, all of the workers that helped to try and build this festival into something livable were also told they were going to get paid. And to this day, they have still not been paid. They are the real victims of this scam. After night 1, day 2 rolled around and it only got worse. An announcement was put out on Instagram by Blink-182, who were due to perform that day, stating that they could not play the festival because they did not think that the attendees would get the show that they deserved. It was clear that due to poor organisation from the Fire Festival staff, they did not have the equipment to actually put on a show. In my eyes, Blink-182 made the right call. what's the point in performing to all these people who are expecting a massive, massive show when they've paid this much money and you're not able to fulfill it because you've not been given the equipment you need? At this point, festival goers were done with this festival. So they tried to escape the island and go home. And honestly, I do not blame them. The festival goers, the festival returners, got stranded at the airport again. This guest shared that they were locked in the room without food or water while they were waiting for their flight. Shocking. Inevitably, the festival got cancelled. Shock, I know. With all the chaos that went down, it shouldn't have gone ahead in the first place. It ended up all over social media and became a huge joke, and it was clear by this point it was all a scam. After the festival, it came to light that this isn't the first time that Billy McFarland has scammed people out of thousands and thousands of dollars. Magnesis, the millennial card that I mentioned earlier in this video, was a scam. They were promised all these VIP parties that did go ahead in the beginning, but then they just stopped. These people were promised exclusive deals that never showed up. And when people tried to access their money, they couldn't. They were not allowed to access their funds. What actually happened? Billy McFarland took their money to pay off his own stuff and to pay off his lifestyle. On May the 1st, 2017, Rule and Billy McFarland were sued for a total of $100 million in relation to the Fyre Festival scam. There were also 6 federal and 4 individual lawsuits that were filed. McFarland was arrested on June of 2017 and was released on a $300,000 bail. He was faced with nearly 5 years of jail time. But you thought this was over? Oh no. In late 2017, after McFarland was released on bail, Fyre Festival goers started to receive some really odd emails. These emails were from NYC VIP Access. They were selling tickets such as the Met Gala, Taylor Swift meet and greets, which she publicly says she doesn't do, and even Coachella. These events did not exist or were not available to buy at that time, but 15 people still fell for this scheme. Turns out McFarland was behind all of this. Even though he faced jail time for exactly this, he was still committing fraud. Clear he did not learn anything from this. All he cared about was getting money just to fund his expensive, luxurious lifestyle. And he had no thoughts about how this was affecting others. In March of 2018, McFarland pled guilty on 2 counts of wire fraud and was fined $26 million, on top of the $100 million that he had already been sued for. 3 months later, in June of 2018, McFarland pled guilty for fraud while he was out on bail in relation to the NYC VIP Access scheme. McFarland was sentenced to 6 years of prison in October of 2018, but he only served 4 of those. He was released in September of 2022 and is now free. In October of the same year, he started to post on social media such as TikTok and YouTube Shorts. These posts talk about a new business adventure that he is planning and that will be all revealed in November of 2022. No doubt this is going to be another scam, so if you see it, stay clear of it, please. It's clear that he has not learned anything from all of this and he's going to continue to scam. Thus concludes the story of Fyre Festival. What other festivals do you want me to cover? Let me know below, and if you enjoyed this video, please could you like it down below? It does help the channel. And subscribe if you want to see more festival drama like this one, as well as tips and tricks for if you're planning on going to a festival. I promise I'll make your life just a little bit easier. Until next time, see ya!